we've talked about our views. We have our controller, but we haven't really done any logic yet. And when I say logic, what I'm referring to is the manipulation or the use of the data that the user inputs to create something of value for the user. And I'm actually, at first, I'm not going to use a model at all. And then I'm going to show you why we might want to instead extract all of our logic into a model before things get really convoluted in our application controller. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to list out my goals here. I'm going to do a little bit of pseudocoding first. And my pseudocoding here is I want to take the user's input, which is going to be a string of potential gift givers separated by a comma. I am going to transform that string into an array of individual people. Then I'm going to randomly sort them into pairs at first, and then I'm going to organize those pairs into a single data structure. Then I'm going to pass that single data structure to a new view, and I'm going to let that new view render my pairs for gift giving, for Secret Santa. Now, I have just done some pseudocoding, and how many lines does that take up? Yeah, at least 6 lines. You can imagine that when we actually start coding, it's going to take more than 6 lines to do this. One of the reasons why a model view architecture is so useful is because as we start building out this post request, it's going to get very long. And so going in and manipulating just a post request, it makes looking at an app, or if someone were to come in and try and help us code and like build out different parts of it, or if we're working with a team, they're going to say, I am not sure I know what's going on in all parts of your application. So instead what we do is we take our controller and we pass data from our controller to our model, which is going to do most of like the behind the scenes work for us. Then that model is going to pump back a result that our controller is going to be like, okay, I can take this result, I know exactly what to do with it. Here you go, view, there it is. And so before I do any of this, I'm going to head up to the top where I'm requiring app/models/sample model, and I'm going to change that file's name to gift _ giver. And inside my file tree, I'm going to rename samplemodel.rb giftgiver.rb. Ta-da! And I'm going to save. Now I'm still not going to write anything in my model yet. Instead, I'm going to just take all the things I want my controller to do, and then I'm going to go back and write the logic for it. Does that sound good? So inside my post request, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to take a variable. We're going to call it input, or maybe just like user input to be super clear. And I'm going to set it equal to params, bless you, params, and then in square brackets, I'm going to say people, because that's the name of the key in our params hash. So now I have taken the user's input, which is a string of potential gift givers separated by a comma, and I have stored them in a variable called user input. What's the next thing we want to do?
Separate them by the comma.
Right, we want to separate by them a comma, and then we're going to want to randomly sort them into pairs. Then we want to organize those pairs into a single data structure. Then we want to pass that single data structure to a new view. Now, inside my controller, I'm probably just going to say, I'm going to make a new variable here called result, or just like final result to be super clear, and set that equal to passing my user input into a method that I'm going to define inside my model. So I'm going to call this method, let's call it sort and pair. And then we're going to pass in the user input. And then I'm going to render a new page, ERB results. Now, does anyone know why I use the @ symbol here for ERB results? Ah, yes. This @ symbol, otherwise known as an instance variable, allows access to this variable even if we're not inside this post method. So user input, this variable here, can only be accessed inside the post request method. But this @final results variable can be passed to a new template like results and be accessed from anywhere outside the scope of this post request. Excuse me, which is why we do it. We do it so that anything can have access to it, and if you don't remember our lesson on scope, that's okay, we can revisit this in a minute, but just trust me for now that what this does is it means that anyone can come grab this value and use it in another method. So now I've actually extracted a lot of the logic out of my post request, and it becomes a much simpler thing to do. All I need to do is create a method called sort and pair inside my giftgiver.rb file, and make sure that it takes in a user input and returns a final result. Oh, good. I need to plug some stuff in. Uno momento, por favor. Now, I'm not going to make the results ERB page yet. Instead, I'm going to open up, well, I'm going to save this file, and then I'm going to open up our model, the giftgiver.rb. Now, you see here a class for sample model. We aren't going to need a class for this kind of application. So I'm just going to delete all the class stuff. Jeff Olson will lead a fantastic lesson on object orientation in a few, but until then, we'll stick to defining simple generic methods. What did we call that method again?
Sort and pair.
Sort and pair. And how many arguments has it taken? One. Let's call that list of people. And just to remember, takes in a string of people separated by a comma. And let's go ahead and end it down here. And you know what's fun? What I really like to do is I actually don't want to write this method yet because I already know what I'm going to do. I would like to see if you all can come up with an answer for how to take in a string of people separated by a comma. And I'm going to head back to my application controller really quickly to remember all the things I need to do. Let's go ahead and transform that string into an array of individual people, randomly sort them into pairs, and then organize those pairs into a single data structure that we can iterate over in our results.erb page. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes at your table to try and come up with a solution for how to do this. And then at the end, we're going to go over my solution, and you'll probably have different solutions than I will, but I have an idea of how I would do this already. I would like to see if you all can figure it out together. And if you would like any hints along the way, I am here for you, but I'm going to pause this here and let y'all do your thing. So best of luck to you. Get it going. Now that you've all struggled through the sort and pair method, I'm going to show you how I would approach solving a problem of this level of complexity. But I'm going to do it in the next video. So I'm going to pause this here and let's go.